Hello, everyone, and first of all, Happy New Year to everyone wherever you are in the world right now. I wish you very happy and very successful upcoming year. This is just the first video and the first attempt for myself as well to start the journey of teaching everyone about open source geospatial courses, and this is the first boot camp regarding geospatial python that I'm doing right now. Please let me know in the comments whatever logistic things that you think are not going right. For example, if the video is lagging or if the audio is not good, please make sure that you put it in the chat. I do have a couple of screens for me working right now so that I can check one screen for the chat and obviously take the course in the another one. So we will wait for few minutes for others to join in. Meanwhile, feel free to add your name and from where you are and what is your expectation from this entire bootcamp in the chat. I'll be reading the chat and replying to the people who are adding the information. Great. I think we have a crowd to get started, and of course, I don't want to waste time of people who are on time and ready to learn. So again, welcome everyone. Now, this course is basically created keeping in mind that whoever is attending the course has no knowledge about Python at all. So, if you are complete beginner to Python, this is the exact video from where you get started. We are going to learn Python first and then we are going to add a geospatial component to that Python. Notice that Geospatial Python is nothing but an extended arm of Python language. That means once you learn this, once you learn Python, once you understand this course, you can use that Python knowledge to any field that you want. Doesn't matter if you're from geospatial background or if you're from something else like healthcare or maybe finance or maybe if you just want to work as a data scientist. This course is for you. Now, before actually jumping into learning Python, let's just have a look at very brief presentation that I have created so that we will understand that why we want to learn Python and where exactly can we use this knowledge. I'm pretty sure that everyone who is attending this webinar already understands the importance of Python because most of the big companies right now, as the name suggests, like Amazon and Netflix, are using Python to develop their algorithms. Whenever you search anything on Amazon, you can see that all related search starts popping up. All this is because the people at Netflix and Amazon are extensively using the capabilities of Python to create algorithms based on your search and your search history. When you consider websites like Instagram and Pinterest, they use this Django as a framework to do their data management. And Django, of course, is an extended framework based written on Python. So ultimately, they are also using Python. And it's not just these big tech giants who are benefiting from Python. It is very basic startups like health tech companies which are rising now, which will do the image classification to find out the tiniest atom, the tiniest let's say amoeba or bacteria in your body in order to understand which type of behavior is this. Since we already have tons and tons of such data available, such images available in the past, people are using this data to predict whether the bad or let's say whether anything should look like, how an internal organ should look like, and things like that. When we think about stock market, it is basically a numbers game. People develop algorithms, people develop logics that based on previous behavior of any stock, they will try to predict the upcoming trend in the stock market. All these things can be simplified and more importantly scaled up to actually keeping an eye on thousands and thousands of stock at the same time using Python. And of course, if you're into geospatial domain, understanding Python will give you edge over someone who is actually doing basic GIS analysis using softwares. For example, converting one data format to another, or maybe clipping a raster data based on a vector data. All these things can be done using Python in fraction of seconds, and this is what we have as an intention to learn in this course. Now, what are the Python jobs available? Let's say that you are not into the development job as of now, and you want to understand what will happen exactly once you understand the Python. What are different paths available for you to work as a Python expert? Notice that whatever I have written over here are just very few job titles that I could remember based on my current experience. There are obviously tons and tons of job titles available which will require Python as a very basic key to understand and to work. There is a question in the chat that whether it is necessary to know C++ to understand this lecture, and the answer is no. If you don't know anything about programming at all, this is where you start. You don't need to know anything, any prior or prerequisite programming language knowledge is needed for this. So, as I was saying, when you understand Python, the first thing that you can start working as is obviously a web developer. More importantly, you will be working as a backend developer, where your job will be to create APIs and to manage data coming from front end, and also show the data that is coming from database to the front end. You will be acting as a backend developer, developing all those APIs. Then you can get into the testing. Python supports the reason why Python is so famous is because the code that we write in Python can be tested easily using automation testing and various tools available. We can actually test the Python code before deploying it to the final stage. Then, if you want to work as a data scientist or if you want to get into data analytics, Python is a great way for you to do that. Because the main reason why people use Python is to deal with tons and tons of data. Python understands the data properly and helps you to calculate with uh, helps you to do complex calculations easily. You can work with big data using Python. If you want to grow your career into artificial intelligence or machine learning, most of these people will use Python as their base language. They will obviously need to learn more and more about maths, probability, and understand how to clean the data, how to do data crawling. But ultimately, Python is the base for that. And obviously, you can also do the automation related jobs. So there is a very good book known as Automating Boring Stuff with Python, which I will definitely recommend everyone to read. It's very simple book and it will give you an idea that your day to day activities, how you can automate those with Python. For example, if I give you a question that if you have, let's say if you are from a GIS background, I think you'll be better able to understand this and reply. If you have 1000 shapefiles with you that you want to convert from one coordinate system to another, and then you want to actually convert those into GeoJSON, and then store it back, how much time it will take for you. And imagine that you have to do this daily. Every day you will get 1,000 files that you have to convert from one coordinate system to another, and then you have to convert it into a GeoJSON. Normally it will take somewhere between half an hour to maybe couple of hours, depending upon how much knowledge you have using softwares like QGIS or ArcMap. But let's say that I don't give you any such softwares, then you will be stuck because you don't know how to open a file and convert it into another coordinate system, or maybe also another format without using these softwares. Python is the tool that can help you over there. Using Python, you can actually write a script that will always keep an eye on a specific folder, and whenever a new shapefile is inserted into that folder, it will take that file, convert it its coordinate system, convert it into GeoJSON, and store it back. Once you write this script, then it's done. Once you write this script, then it's done. What do I mean by that? Once you write the script, you never have to look back to this code again. You can put million numbers of shapefiles into that folder and Python script will convert that. Let me know what do you think about this, guys. Do you think this will certainly elevate your everyday job if you are working as a GS analyst? Another example can be finding out all the points within a polygon. If you want to do this for, let's say, a point where you have a billion polygons, and let's say billions of polygons and billions of points, your software might crash. Is this correct? But using Python, you can write a script which will take this data and then convert it without without putting too much load on the CPU. So this is everything I had as a presentation. I believe you guys will be more and more excited to see this rather than just going through the presentation. Now before we begin, make sure that you are into the Slack channel, because this is where I will keep on adding the names of the books that I will be referring, the blogs that I will be referring, and so on and so forth. Make sure that you are in the Slack channel. If you are not yet, you can find the link of the Slack channel in the YouTube description or on my LinkedIn page. So now let's get started. I am not sure if you guys have installed Python on your machine as of now, but if you haven't, just simply go to Python download on any of your search engine and click on the Python org, and you can download the latest version, whatever it is. So for me it is 3.10.1, and it is a simple installation, a normal installation that you would do for any software that you will download from the internet. Okay, once this is downloaded, then you can simply click on it and it will install it like any other software. And once the installation is done, then you can open a terminal and do the following thing. Just type python dash version. Now here you can see that when I do python-v, I get the version 3.8.8. You might not see all this information. You might see just the version. This depends upon how much installations or how much you are playing with the Python. Certainly I have messed few things in my installation, and that is why I am seeing so many things. But don't worry, in your case you will see something like just the version. That's all. If you for some reason see version 2.x in your machine, then try to do Python 3. In this case, you will definitely see the Python 3.x version installed on your machine. And as of now, Python 2 is outdated and nobody is using it. And of course, we are not going to use it as well. We are going to use Python version 3. Now once the Python is installed, let me give you a very brief idea about what exactly is Python. Imagine that you want to write a Word file. So generally the Word file will have a extension of .doc, right? And in order to open that file, you will need something like Microsoft Office or Apache Open Office or anything like that. So that means you need a software that will actually understand that this file is a CSV and will open it for me. This file is a PDF and it will open it for me. This file is a doc and it will open it for me. Just like that, when you install Python, then you can create a file with the extension .py. Py stands for Python extension. And once you have that file, then you can use Python to run that file. So in order for us to write the code, we will use another software which is known as VS Code. VS Code is created by Microsoft and it is one of the best code editor available to us as of now. I use it extensively because the responsiveness it has and the beauty it has, and of course you can integrate your GitHub account with it. You can add new and new extensions to it and things like that. As of now, don't worry about all these capabilities. As we move forward, we will explore these capabilities one by one. But for now, just make sure that you have installed VS Code. If you are not a fan of VS Code, you can use something known as Atom. So Atom is also very good code editor. And if you are just looking for a code editor which will work for Python, then you can use PyCharm. PyCharm again is a very good product. You can use this IDE to write the Python code. But for me, I will be using VS Code. So now back to our main problem. Now we have the Python installed and we also have the code editor. So if I go to the VS Code in my machine, you will see that I have the code editor. I will open a new code. And now whenever I want to write a code, I will use VS Code, and whenever I want to run the code, I will have to have Python installed on my machine. But since we are using VS Code, we can actually run the Python code inside VS Code only. Now let's see how do we do that. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my desktop and create a folder known as GeoPy. And okay, I already have that. So GeoPy live. And I'm going to use this folder to write all my code today. Let's say, so once I open this folder in the VS Code, then I'm going to click on create new file and I will create a file known as first.py. Remember that py is the extension of VS Code. So we have to write py. So I will write py and hit enter. Now we can write the Python code inside this file. There are some rules that we have to follow, friends, whenever we want to write Python code. Now the very first rule of Python is that Python is a case sensitive. That means if I write car and if I write car in capital, both of these things are going to mean different. So if I have car is equal to, let's say, XUV, and if I have car is equal to Nexon, then both of these things are going to mean different because Python is a case sensitive. So this is the first rule. Whenever you are writing Python code, make sure that whatever name that you are giving, you remember the case sensitivity of that. Second is Python cares about indentation. What do I mean by that? Right now this code is not going to make sense to you, but don't worry about it. We actually just have to focus on indentation. So let's say if I write a function known as get me addition, don't worry about the code that I'm writing, just focus on the thing that I want to present it to you. So if I do something like this, return hi, or if I write if a is equal to 5, then print hi. Now don't worry about what is this if or the function that I wrote. I actually deleted function because it might become a little complicated. Here you can see that the if starts from the very left hand side, but the print doesn't start from the very left hand side. You can see that we have four spaces after the left hand in order to write the print. This is what indentation means. So Python understands indentation and Python cares about indentation. If I write it like this, you can see that I'm getting an error that this is not correct. It is expected to have an indented block. So that means whenever you're writing anything in Python, you have to care about indentation. So generally the indentation will be either four space bars, so 1 2 3 4, or it can be one tab. So you will have a tab button just above your caps lock, so you can do print indent. So this is how the indentation works. Third is Python. In Python, you can write comments as well. So what do I mean by comments? Comments is a code that you will write in a file, but it will never get executed. For example, right now it is very simple code. We just have 3 lines worth of code. But imagine creating a massive software. For example, when Firefox browser was created, it took around 230,000 lines of Python code to create the functionalities. So imagine that if you write those many lines of code, it will be very hard for you if you visit, let's say, line number 48 afterwards and trying to understand what you have written over there. So for doing that, every time we write a code block, we will add a comment to it. So comment will be a human readable text for, and to start a comment we will use the pound sign or the hash sign, and then I will write this if block checks if a is equal to 5. Now this is a code. This line is, even though it is inside code, it is not actually treated as a code. This is treated as a human readable comment, so that when I run this won't get executed. So these are some of the rules that we have to follow, and as we move forward there will be much more rules coming to the picture. The last final and very important rule is that whenever you will write a Python code, it will start executing the code from line 1 all the way up to the last line. So for example, if I write it like, if I write something like print hi, then print today is 4, and let's say print Python. Okay, now since I'm using VS Code, I will get this play button over here, and when I click on this will run my Python file in a terminal. And you can see that in a terminal I have these 3 prints available to me. I have hi, I have today is 4th, and I have a Python. So what does this mean is that Python will start executing the code from line 1 all the way up to line 3. For a small code like this it is fine, but again imagine writing a hundreds, thousands, 100,000 or 10,000 lines of code. In that case, you don't necessarily want to you don't basically necessarily want to execute the code all the way from line 1 to line 10,000. Sometimes you will only require to run a specific line of code or to run a specific function to check whether that is working or not. So in order to do that, we will be using Jupyter Notebook. So it's a Python notebook where then we can divide this code into smaller blocks and then just run those blocks. That's all. Now we will see what is Jupyter Notebook. I will go to my browser and I will search for Jupyter Notebook. So when I go to Jupyter Notebook, first thing I can do is I can actually try it in my browser itself. So try a classic notebook, and this will actually create a notebook for us. It might take a little bit time, but that's totally worth it. Once we see it up and running, you will see the usability of Jupyter Notebook. Whenever you want to write a Python code, you will always refer to the notebook, because obviously whenever you are working on a project, you are not going to work on all the functionalities at the same time. You will be breaking your entire goal into smaller goals, and then you will be working on those only, right? So what do we do here is we click on this plus sign and this will create one input bar for me. So I will write print hi. Now I can simply click on this run button and this will run this print for me, and you can see that I have the result over here. Now I can then again print my another function, which is print today is 4th, and I can run this. Now this time instead of using run, I clicked on shift and I did enter, and this worked perfectly fine. And finally we have print python. So here again I did print python. So you can see that here one major difference between writing a Python file and writing a notebook file will be that when you actually use notebook, then you can break your complete code into smaller code blocks and then you can just execute those. So if I don't want to write hi, but if I want to write hello, then I can just change it over here and run it, and I don't necessarily need to run the remaining code. So this is the beauty of using notebook, and we are going to use notebook for first couple of lectures when we work in this boot camp. Now before jumping into next topic, I would recommend everyone to please go to your browser, open this website known as W3 Schools, go to the tutorial, learn Python, and make sure that you are bookmarking this to your browser. It is very important. W3 Schools is one of the best resource available in order to work or in order to learn any programming language, let it be HTML, CSS, JavaScript, SQL, Python, PHP, Bootstrap. You can see they provide the entire code and how to execute that particular code in Python in a one single website. So it is very important that you mark this website and in your browser and you refer it whenever you are stuck. So this is where we will be coming back every now and then. The goal here is not for me to teach you, but actually to make you an independent developer, so that tomorrow if you are stuck somewhere, rather than asking for help, first you can go here and do your own homework, and if you don't find the answer, then you can ask to the community on websites like Stack Overflow. Again, a very good website that I would recommend everyone to bookmark. Stack Overflow is one of the best site available on the internet for developers, and I'm pretty sure if you guys are using Instagram, you might have seen a lot of memes for Stack Overflow that if Stack Overflow websites goes down even for a day, programmers are going to have a nightmare, because most of the time programming is not about writing the code but actually solving the problem or debugging the code. And this is where we come. So there is a question in the chat that how do we install an extension to run a Python code? For all the extensions that you want to install in a Python code, in your VS Code, you can actually look for this extensions tab and you can type it over here. For example, if you go to the Python, you will see that I have installed Python over here. So this is a very good place where you can find all the extensions. If you work with web development, you might need to install live server. We will actually see live server in the HTML bootcamp. So the first course of that bootcamp will be on 6th, that is day after tomorrow. So there we will be checking more and more extensions as we move forward. Basically, the one of the reason why VS Code is so famous is because these extensions are unbelievably easy to use and makes your life as a developer very easy. For example, when we go to the Django part of this course or this bootcamp, then I will also ask you to install a Django extension. The reason why we use extensions is because it makes our life very easy. We don't necessarily have to write the entire code, but we can just give our uh, IDE, our environment, just an idea that what we want to do, and it will help us to complete the code. And not just complete, but it will also give the suggestion that, for example, for print, what does a Python mean by print? What information you can pass to the print, so on and so forth. So it is important to have all these basic extensions installed. This course is basically planned for 15 days. So in every week we will have 1 day worth of course. So that means 15 Tuesdays will be enough for anyone to understand geospatial Python, all the way from understanding Python to actually doing geospatial analysis. If you already know Python, then you can go to my website and check out the part where you are interested and just attend that part. But I would recommend still doing all this course together because this will help you to clear your concept one more time. Okay, now is the time for another really good concept. This is very important concept, and I really want everyone to pay their full attention. If you have any doubt in this, make sure that you put in the chat box. Uh, I would definitely want to clear these doubts because this is very important concept before actually starting to write the Python code. Okay, so again, let's come back to why Python is famous. You might have seen that people are using Python in data science. So when we say that, that doesn't mean that the people are actually inventing the wheel of, let's say, getting a standard deviation value or calculating a mean of a table of a values from a table. They are not doing this from the scratch. They are using libraries which you can install in your Python and then use those libraries. If you guys have heard of a library known as NumPy, which is a very essential library that all the data scientists use. So this is basically a library created by a group of community that you can install in your Python. Now, if you're confused about what is going on, let me give you a very simple example. When you buy any mobile phone, then that means that you have bought the phone. But if you want to use any specific software on that, for example, a phone is capable of running a video, but if you want to see a YouTube video, then you will have to install a YouTube application on that, and then only your phone will be capable to use YouTube. So just like that, Python is a language that we have installed. On top of that, we can install whatever packages that we want to use in our code. So NumPy is one of such package. So we can actually use NumPy to do the data science related thing. If you remember our Jupyter notebook from the past, Jupyter notebook is also one of the package. So if I again go to the home page of Jupyter notebook, you will see this install sign over here, which tells us that we can install Jupyter notebook in order to use it in our local machine, because we are not necessarily all the time we are going on browser and then using Jupyter notebook. So we can install that Jupyter notebook in our Python and then use it from over there. But now again, it is not that straightforward. I will tell you the reason. Most of these very famous libraries are open source for anyone to use. You can use NumPy without paying anyone any single dollar for even for your commercial projects. So this sounds like a very tempting thing that this type of advanced libraries are available for us to use. But there is also a downside for this. The downside is that these libraries, for example NumPy or Pandas or GeoPandas, all these libraries are also not necessarily built from scratch. Some of these libraries are extension to some of the other libraries available. For example, if I go to the home page of GeoPandas, you will see that GeoPandas under the hood uses library known as Shapely, Fiona, and Matplotlib. That means the creators of GeoPandas have used the already available libraries Pandas, Shapely, Fiona, and Matplotlib to create their own library on top of that. So that means as long as these base libraries are working fine, the GeoPandas will also work fine. But let's say that because of some reasons, Fiona, the library or the package of Fiona started behaving weirdly. that means all the packages that are dependent on it will also have that bug in them. This is the downside of using open source projects, because these are built by communities. Let's say if someone on Friday night, getting after a little bit drunk, decided to push the code without testing it properly, and because of it, the library introduces some bugs, that means all the libraries which are built on top of that will also have those bugs. Hence, it is very important that whenever you are selecting any library, you do your extensive research, and then only you select that library. So, if you go to PIPY, this is basically the home page of finding the Python packages or Python libraries or Python extensions. So, as we are saying, if I simply search for NumPy, and if I do search, you will see that I got 10,000 plus results from just a simple search. Now all of these libraries have the NumPy written in them. Now how do we know that which Python package are we interested into? In order to do that, there are few things that we keep on checking whenever we want to see which library we have to use. So the very first thing is we check what was the latest date of the package when it was updated. So for example, if you check the first package over here, this was updated on 1st of January 2022, while the second one was updated on January 24, 2021, and the third one on 2017. So certainly this looks like the most updated package. And when I open it, if I scroll down, you can see that the GitHub statistics for this repository is quite impressive. They have more than 19,000 stars, more than 6,000 forks, and more than 2,000 open issues or pull requests. So this tells me that this is a very active library, which basically is an indicator that this might be the original NumPy library. Again, if I want to confirm, I will go to the home page and it will get me to the numpy.org, which is a confirmation that this is the actual library that we want to use. Package and library and extension, all these are synonyms. There is no difference between them at all. Now, if I accidentally go to the second one and if I scroll down, you can see that they don't have any statistics. This is the first red flag. And also they don't have a home page. This is a second red flag. Imagine NumPy is the most important library in data science, uh, and of course there is no statistics. So this tells me that this might not be the NumPy library or NumPy package that I'm interested into. So I will not use this. Like that, we will select the package and then we will do our study before installing, because as I said, it's the package that is working right now, it's not guaranteed that it will work after a year or after 6 months. This will only depend upon how exactly the library is built, what are the basis of those what are the basis of that library, and how much reliable are those bases. So for example, in case of GeoPandas, pandas as the name suggests is one of the most widely used data science library. Shapely, Fiona, Matplotlib, all these are very famous libraries. So it's a very less probability that GeoPandas will ever introduce a unexpected bug. But this doesn't mean that there won't be any bug. There are going to be bugs all the time. And again, in order for us to prevent the bugs, the next thing that we have to consider is the version. So if I go to the NumPy page again, you will see that the current version is 1.22.0. If I click on release history, you can see that there are quite a few versions. Those were released all the way back in 2006. So it's a long journey that NumPy had till today. Now, if you create, so usually what will happen is that as these libraries are dependent on another libraries, if that another library decides to deprecate a function, that means close some sort of functionality, then this will affect the upcoming libraries as well. If let's say, let's take a classic example of GeoPandas, and which is using pandas and Shapely and Fiona in the backend. So Shapely is basically responsible for creating point, line, polygon, multi-polygon, and all these geometries. We will have a greater depth at Shapely library. It is very important to understand Shapely library in upcoming videos. But for now, let's just consider that you know Shapely, and the job of Shapely is to create point, line, polygon. And of course, since GeoPandas is using Shapely, then GeoPandas is also capable to create point, line, polygon. Tomorrow, if Shapely decides to discontinue the feature where they allow user to create point, so if Shapely closes that in the next release, then this will also affect GeoPandas in their next release. But if you stick with the previous version of Shapely, so again, if I go to the Shapely to explain it to you more clearly, please keep on putting the doubts in the chat box. I am looking at the chat box and I'll be more than happy to explain these concepts over and over again, because understanding Python is about understanding these concepts, nothing else. Learning Python is very easy, guys. So again, back to our problem. Let's say that when Shapely was on version 1.7, they had the capability of drawing point, line, and polygon. And in version 1.8, they decided to stop the feature of letting user create point. This means if we go back and install the version 1.7, we will have that capability to create the point, but which is not available in 1.8 version. That means I want to install Shapely, but I don't want version 1.8. I want to use version 1.7. How can I do that? This is the first question. The second question is, right now all the information that we are thinking is in terms of just creating one project. What if I am working on 10 different projects? Some require us to use 1.7 and some require us to use 1.8, because remember, Shapely is used in GeoPandas. So whenever you are installing GeoPandas, that means you are also installing Shapely at the back end. So what do we do in that condition? How will Python decide whether you want to use Python version 1.8 or 1.7? This is a trickle, right? So what do you think should be the solution for this, guys? Write down in the comments. Now the answer to this puzzle is to create environment. So what do we mean by environment? Now let's try to understand that with a very simple diagram. Now this is my Python. So let's consider that this is my Python installed on my machine. So when I say machine, this means that this is the actual Python that I have installed, and I can get that using just Python or Python 3, something like that. Okay. Now whenever we want to install a package, we have to do pip install and then the package name. So if I type pip install Shapely, this will basically install Shapely in my package directly. No, this is not what I want, because if I do this, this means that this will be installed on my global Python and this will always use 1.8. So in this case, we will be using environment. So what do we mean by that is we will be creating a copy of our Python installation and we'll be giving it a name of environment. For example, environment 1. And in this environment 1, then we can install whatever packages that we want to install. For example, Shapely 1.7. Now I'm just using these different symbols to denote different things. There's no connection of this with the with Python obviously. Again, for the NumPy, I don't want 1.22. I want, let's say, 1.5. So I can go to my diagram and install NumPy 1.5. And like that, let's say I also install pandas, let's say version 1. So you see, now we have created an environment which is obviously a Python environment, and then we have installed Shapely 1.7, Python 1.5 and pandas 1 on top of that. So even though these libraries are installed in Python, they are not installed on the global Python. They are installed on this environment. That means if I tomorrow decides to if I decide to create another environment, let's say environment number 2, then in this case I can again install NumPy to version that I want. So version 1.22. Shapely I can do 1.8. So on and so forth. So we can keep on creating n numbers of environment. Generally we will create a specific environment for each project, and then we will just keep all those libraries that we want to use in that project in that environment. The uh, another advantage of using this environment is when you will create an actual project, let's say you are using Django or something like that. In such projects you will have 20, 30, 50 or even hundreds of these Python libraries installed. So tomorrow if you want to ship your code to your friend or your colleague, and you want him to also run this code, then obviously he will also need this environment setup done. He will also need to have all these libraries installed in order to run the code. In that case, you don't necessarily have to call him and tell him that, hey brother, install Shapely 1.7 and NumPy 1.5 and Pandas 1. No, you will not do that. You will simply export your environment, which is generally a .yaml file or .text file, which he will again install on his machine, and he will already have all these setup ready for him. So this sounds like really interesting, right? This really helps this really helps us in doing the web development and shipping our code, and this helps multiple developers to work on a single project at a time. So there is no such difference between Python and global Python. I have just used the global Python command just to give you an idea. So global Python means the Python that you just installed. You know, when you went to the downloads, you downloaded it and installed. But again, as I said, we will never do pip install directly on the global Python. We will always create environment and then we will use those. Now, the next question is, how do we create environment? So there are various ways we can create environment. We can use something known as virtual env or the very famous Anaconda. So Anaconda is again very famous among the data scientist community. Lot of people uses Anaconda open source to maintain and create and export environments, and this is entirely your choice. There is no there are obviously pros and cons, but there is no such thing as that you only have to use this or use this or use another thing. So I personally use Conda as well as virtual environment both. It won't matter if you install both or if you install only one of those, it will still work. So now whenever you will install and download and install the Anaconda, and if you're on Windows you will see a different terminal known as I guess it is known as Anaconda terminal or Conda shell or something like that. And if you're on Mac or Linux, then you don't necessarily have to have another terminal. If you open new terminal, you will see this base written over here at the left of your name, of your computer's name. So this base tells me that right now I am inside no environment. I am not in any environment as of now. And in order for me to create an environment, I can simply write, so since I'm showing you the conda version, I will write conda create dash n, and then I will write the environment that I want. So geopy live, and then I will write python 3.9. And this is how you can see that now when we are installing python 3.9. So now remember, earlier if you check my terminal, you can see that I had global python 3.8.8 installed, but using an environment I can actually install 3.9. So my python will be 3.9 inside this environment, and it will be 3.8 as a global. So you can see that we can also have multiple python versions available to us as well. So if I proceed, it will actually download that and install it for me. And now if I want to activate this, I will do conda activate geopy live, and you can see that now the name base is changed to geopy live. And now whatever installations that I want to do, I can do it over here now. So pip install shapely I can do over here, and now my shapely will be just installed in this environment, not on my global python. So make sure that first thing that you do today is try to create your own environments, and not just create, but also try to export those environments, try to import environments from one another. I'm guessing everyone is in a Slack group as of now, so I will put the first assignment in the Slack group as we are talking, that assignment 1, create your own python environment and install couple of libraries in it. Second, export that environment and import environment posted on this group by someone else. So let's see how do you guys respond to this. Okay, now back to our problem. Now we have installed the environment, we have also written the pip install shapely, we have shapely installed, and now what I will do is I will try to export this into a file that we were talking about. So I will first go to my desktop and go to geopy live, my folder, and now again I can write the code, but I don't want to write it because the job for me is to show you how to use Google or how to use a search engine to do the job for you. So what I can do is how to export Anaconda environment, and this will give me results. So the first thing you see is a Stack Overflow. So as I said, Stack Overflow is the god for us. So you can see that either way you can. So this is basically for creating, but we are more interested into exporting. So the easiest way they see over here is this. So you can try to find, so I conda export environment file. So I can simply copy this, and if I paste it, if I go to my VS Code again, you will see that we have this environment.yml file, and now this YAML file has all those dependencies, a specific dependencies that we are talking about, shapely version 1.8. So we are also mentioning that which version are we interested into. Because we have installed the latest one, we got 1.8. Just like that, we can also work with virtual environments. So virtual environments are a little bit lightweight. For example, you don't have to necessarily download a file worth of 515 MB. You can simply download a virtual environment package and then use it. So for now, let me just deactivate the conda. Okay, now let's see the another way of creating environment, which is virtual environment. So if I search for virtual env, you can see that virtual env itself is a Python package. So once that is installed, so you can see you can do pipx install virtual env, and now the funny thing is we will have to install virtual env on the global Python, because this is a environment creator. So environment creator should be on global Python in order for us to use it, right? So once you do this, then you can actually create virtual environments by the command python -m venv and then the name of the environment. So let's say geovenv. Now here you can see that once I do this, if I go back to my VS Code, you will see that I have this geoenv folder available to me. Now in order for me to start this environment, I can do source geoenv /bin/activate. Once I do this, you can see that I have geoenv and also base. Don't worry about this base. If you are working with virtual environment, then you should see the virtual environment name. That's all. And now we will use pip install shapely, but no, we are not going to hit enter. We want to put 1.7.0, and now the version 1.7.0 is installed. Now in order for me to export, I will do pip freeze and then I will write the file name req.text. So generally when you export the pip libraries using virtual environment, then you will use this sort of code. Once I do this, you will see that now I have a req.txt. This file is relatively simple. So you see in here you have all the information, because this is a Anaconda related file, so Anaconda will be able to understand it. But this text file is basically a general file that we have exported from a pip. So this will only have the packages that we are installing. So virtual environment export file doesn't care about your environment name or things like that. It will only care about the files. So you can see that in a same Python I have two environments. One is using Shapely 1.7.0, another one is using Shapely 1.8.0. So this is how environments are created. So again, the task 2 for you will be assignment 2 for you will be to actually create such environment. Assignment 2, create your own Jupyter notebook environment. So for Jupyter notebook, yeah, that is correct. Actually there was one question that the terminal is whether terminal is command prompt. That is true. When I say terminal, I mean command prompt for Windows, and for Linux and Mac it is the terminal. Okay, back to the problem. Now we will install Jupyter notebook. If I head back to the home page of Jupyter notebook, you can see that using pip we can install, using conda we can install, and there is also something as mamba, so we can also install using that. But for now let's just stick with Jupyter notebook installation using pip. Now there are again two ways to install this. So either you can install an entire Jupyter lab, or you can just install the notebook. Again, for us as of now notebook is fine, so we will just install the notebook. So I will do pip install notebook. I'll make sure that my virtual environment is up and running, and I will install the notebook. Now what you see over here are all the packages that actually goes behind this notebook package. So you can see that it uses so many packages. There are, I guess, more than 20 packages that actually are installed when we installed a notebook. So you can see each of these packages have written that IPython should be greater than or equal to 7.23.1 and things like that. So this is what happens under the hood. Okay, now that I have installed a notebook, I can simply run it by writing the command Jupyter Notebook. Now it is very important for us to also understand where are we actually writing the Jupyter Notebook. So for me, what I will be doing is in my folder I will be creating one more folder of name notebooks. So I'm using terminal to create this, but obviously you can use your folder or finder to also do that. And now I will run the command Jupyter Notebook. Here we have Jupyter Notebook local setup done for us. I can click on new and click on the Python 3, and this will open a Jupyter Notebook for me. So now you can see that this is the exact setup that we had in the online Jupyter Notebook world. I can do print hi and this will still work for me. Again, there are multiple ways how you can write a Jupyter Notebook. One is using browser, and second and my preferred way is to use VS Code for that. So you can see that now we are not using a file known as .py. We are using a file known as IPYNB. So this stands for IPython notebook. So we are actually creating a IPython notebook and we will be writing our code in that. Now we have created an environment, if you remember, right? So we also have to mention to the VS Code that which environment should it use in order to run this code. For that I will go over here. You can see that I have so many environments already created for me. So what I can do is I can actually select the GeoENV if it is in the list and it is not. So what I can do is I can actually create a notebook at the very top level, because from here the GeoENV is easily accessible. And there we go, we have GeoVenv. So now my setup is done. Now VS Code knows that which environment am I talking about, and then I can start writing in my file. So I can actually take this file again in my notebooks folder, and then I can start writing in it. So I can do print hi, and then I can click on this run and I will select GOVENV, and then this will run for me. Now the advantage of using VS Code over browser is obviously when we did when we did when we actually printed this command, when we were writing this command, you can see that I have to write the entire thing and there is no helper tool or there is nothing like that. But when I do this in VS Code, you can see that if I type PRI, it immediately starts giving me suggestions, and which basically is very helpful whenever you're writing the code, especially if you have just started. This will help you to reduce your spelling mistakes. So this is how we do the setup of notebook in the VS Code. So so far we have covered these basic concepts. Please write in the comments if you have any questions about this as of now. So we are done with the first half of the course, and now we will be moving forward to actually write the Python code. So is there any issues, or do you want me to answer anything? Please write in the chat box. Okay, then if there are no questions, we can move ahead, and now we will start writing the actual Python code. So far, we were just talking about the concepts and understanding how to create Python code, and now we will move forward. PyCharm, as I said, is again a very good IDE, but personally I use VS Code because I can just write all languages in it. I use JavaScript, HTML, CSS, React, Vue, Python, Django, PHP, Laravel, everything under the same IDE. But again, there is no such comparison that why you should use VS Code or why you should use PyCharm. Both have their own pros and cons, obviously. Okay, let's now move forward. Let us now create a separate notebook known as variables.ipynb, and the kernel that we want for this is again GOVENV. Okay, now we will start with very first thing, which is variables. Now what are variables? So far we were doing the print hi, right? We were just writing this print. Okay, this is not a markdown, this is code, so I will change it to Python. Okay, so far we are doing something like this. We are writing print and then we are passing something that we want to print. Let's say if I want to print my name, so I will do print Krishna and I will hit enter and it will load the result for me. Now if I want to do print, let's say Nexon, I can do that and it will print Nexon. Again, if I want to print something like Apple, I can do that and it will do the job for me. One thing that you can notice is that more or less everything is same. More or less we are just printing the function. That's all we are doing. So why not we can actually assign these values to a variable and then we just print that variable. So what do I mean by that? I can have something like name is equal to Krishna, and then I can just print it. So I can do print name. Now this name will act as a variable. When I run this, the name will go back and understand its value is a Krishna and it will print it as a Krishna. If I change it to banana and if I run it again, it will give me the name as banana. If I change it to something like even a numeric 5, it will print the 5. So this is what variable means. So variable is a way that we store the data and then we utilize that data in the Python code wherever we want. So there are few rules that we have to follow whenever we have to create the name. There are some keywords that we cannot use as a variable name. What do I mean by that? I cannot have a variable name. I cannot have a variable name of print. So I cannot have something like print is equal to f, or I cannot have something like true is equal to f, because this will create a problem. You can see that it is giving me a red flag that expression cannot be assignment, cannot be an assignment target. So if I go to keyword Python list, you can see that we will have a list of these keywords that we cannot use as a variable name. So this is the first rule. We cannot use this. We cannot have a name as and or if or global, but apart from that everything else is fine. Second is that it is case sensitive. That means if I do car is equal to XUV, if I print car, then it will print, but if I do something like print car, then it will give me an error that name car is not defined. That means Python doesn't know what is the value of this name car, even though we have car, but it is a small case, not the camel case. So Python is a case sensitive. That is very important. Next rule is that variable name cannot start with a number. So you cannot have something like for apple is equal to apples. So you can see that it is giving you an error that statement must be separated by new line or semicolon. If I try to run this, it will give you an invalid syntax. So basically, we cannot have number in the beginning. Although we can have number anywhere after the first character. So I can have something like this will still work. I can have something like this will still work. Next is we cannot have spaces between the variable names. So I cannot have something like full name is equal to Krishna Lodha. This will not work. It will give me a invalid syntax. But I should only have a single name as a variable name. But let's say if you want to give a spacing so that when the variable name becomes big, it should be easily readable. Then there are few ways that we will use uh, that we will use to write a good variable name. So the first is camel casing. That means let's say we want to write something like uh, today's, let's say, temp of today at in India. Okay, now I want to write something like temperature of today in India as my variable name. So how do I do that? First way I can do that is using camel casing. So what do I mean by that? Camel casing basically means that it will start with a small letter, and then for each new word we will have a capital first word. So something like this: today in India is, let's say, 24. So you can see that now immediately this becomes a little bit readable to us. Second thing that we can do is using underscore. So something like temp of today in India is equal to 25. So you can see that this is much more readable than the first one. So there is no hard and fast rule that you have to follow these rules, otherwise you cannot write Python code. It is nothing like that. You can always write Python code in a way that you want. You can always give this variable name something like this. It will still work. But we have to be sure that we are using the variable name in a way that it is easy for us to understand when we look at the code, let's say 3 months later, 6 months later, something like that. So that's why we will try to keep the variable name as descriptive as possible, but at the same time we don't want to take much longer and longer spaces to write the name. So the same thing, I can write something like temperature of India noted today by me. So you can see that this obviously, even though this makes a whole lot of sense, but this takes up a lot of space. And imagine that if you want to use this name again and again at, let's say, 100 different places, then it will take a lot of space in your code. So you also have to think about the length of the variable. Although there is no such rule that you cannot have length greater than this or smaller than this, there is no such rule. But try to find a sweet spot where your variable name makes sense and also it is smaller. So this is how we write the variable names. So you can see now we have defined the variables. Now the next important concept that we have to understand for variables is the scope of variable. Scope of variables. Now what do we mean by that? If you can see that in our Python file, as of now we have defined few variables. We have this name, we have car, and things like that. If I copy this car and if I print it again, you can see that I'm sorry, I have to change it back to Python. Now if I copy this car and if I print it again, you can see that I got this XUV as a result. So that means the car variable still holds the value that we assigned to it. So how is that working? Basically, whenever you will define any variable in Python, it will be of a global scope. So the variable will be of global scope, which means that it is accessible from anywhere. So global scope, it is accessible from anywhere. So whatever we write, we can access it from anywhere. So the name the name is also a global variable because we can use it and then we can print it or do whatever we want to do with it. The next one we have is a local scope. Local scope will only work under certain code block. Now what do we mean by that? Let's just try to have understanding of this using a very simple code. Now again I will be writing a little bit of Python function code, but again don't worry about it. Even though you don't understand what is going on over here, don't worry about it. We will be having a look at how to create Python functions and things like that in the upcoming courses. Now let's start with understanding the global and the local scope. So let's say I have a variable known as global cost, or let's say world cost, because I don't want to use global because it might become confusing. So let's say world cost. So let's say something is of world cost of rupees 1000. That means if I print the world cost, this will give me 1000. Now for some reason when that thing comes to India, the cost becomes 900. Okay, so there is some discount available, let's say. So if I write a function of Indian cost, where we actually print the cost as let's say 900. For now let's just start with that. Okay, now you can see that whenever I will call this function, again don't worry too much about what is function and what is going on, just bear with me. So you can see that now when we first executed this Indian cost function, where we got this value 900, and then we printed this world cost where we got the value 1000. Now I will try to print this world cost inside this function. Let's see what do we get. So let me also add one more print function over here known as from function, and here I will write outside function. Okay, so when I run this, I got 900 first, then I got from function, the value is 1000, and then outside function the value is 1000. That means that since this is a global scope variable, we can use it wherever we want. But now let's introduce one more variable inside this function. Let's say local or Indian cost, and let's say if I change it to 900. Now if I put it over here and if I execute the code one more time, this will still give me the exact same result. We got 900 because we defined 900 over here, and then we got from function, we got 1000 over here, then we got outside function, and then we got 1000 over here. Perfectly fine. But what will happen if I try to use this outside this? So if I do outside Indian cost outside function, Indian cost outside function, now what will happen over here? If I run this, you can see that if I run this, you can see that I will get an error that name Indian cost is not defined. So we got till this point we got everything. We also got a print of Indian cost outside function, but then we got an error that Indian cost is not defined. So even though we have defined the Indian cost variable, but it is giving us error that it is not defined, because this Indian cost is actually a variable inside this function. That means this is a local variable. That means it will only live as long as this function is getting executed. Once we exit this function, the Indian cost variable will die as well, and that is how that is why we are getting this error. So this is what the meaning of local and global variable is. As we move forward, we will keep on getting an idea that when we have to use local variable, when we have to use global variable, and things like that. If you are facing error of shapely, there might be a reason behind this, which can be that you don't have a GDAL installed on your machine. So I would recommend that anyone who wants to try creating environments, try to use simple Python packages such as NumPy. Maybe NumPy is very easy to install, so try to install NumPy with different versions and you will get an idea how to do that. Okay, so I hope the concept of the variables is clear to you. We have seen how to create variables, we have seen how to understand what names we have to give, and of course we have also seen what is global and local scope for any variables. Next thing that we will focus on is, now what type of data does Python support? So what are the data types available to us? Data types in Python. So far we were dealing with the strings and numbers, but what are all data types available? Now let's have a look at that. So the first one we have is a text data type. This is the one that we have already seen. So the when I do name is equal to Krishna, so this Krishna is basically a text which is in a string format. So this is known as string. So there are multiple ways that we can write a string. First one is using a single quote. Second is education. I can write in a double quotes civil engineering. Notice that the only rule that Python asks us to follow is that if you start with double quote, then you end with double quote. If you start with single quote, then you end with single quote. You cannot have something like city is equal to Nashik and then end it with double quote. It will not work like that. It will give you an error. Now what if I want to write in multiple lines? So I can do something like address, and then I can start with 3 quotes, and then I can expand those 3 quotes on multiple lines, and then I can write inside those. So Nashik, Maharashtra, India. So this is how we can write multi-line code. Now what if I want to use apostrophe? What if I want to do something like college name, and my college name is something like this, MVP's College of Engineering. So how do I write that? If I try to do something like MVP and then if I put apostrophe again, then you can see that now this S is outside string, and this is certainly not what we want. So one thing that we can do is we can actually use double quotes, and inside this we can use apostrophe, and this will work fine. Or another way is what we can do is we can use an escape variable. So I can have something like MVP, and then I can use this slash, and then you can see that now this single quote is escaped by the string. So I can add one more single quote, and then I can write MVP's COE. So this is how we can write different types of string variables. Next we have is a numeric variables. So we have integers. So something like cost 30, or maybe mileage 24, something like that. I can obviously have negative numbers as well. So temperature is minus 12.2. This is also totally fine. But now this becomes float. So whenever you have a decimal, it will be treated as a floating value. So this is a second type of integer that we have, which is a float. So we can have int and float in Python. We also have big int, but we don't have to worry about those as of now. Then we have some sequential datas. So this is very important, and we will be exploring this sequentials in the next lecture in the greater depth. So we can have something like list. So when we say list, it is a it is an array of all the things that we want to put together and access using only one variable. Now list will be numbered and ordered, so I can have something like colors, and I can have a list of red, yellow, green, blue, and you can see that list starts and ends with rectangle. So this is a list. Then we have tuple. So tuple is essentially a list, but it is not changeable anymore. Don't worry about it. We will have a greater depth. We will have a look at list, set, and all these things in the upcoming video. So we have set. So as of now, I will just show you how to write those. So you can have a tuple. So tuple can be something like ID. IDs is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like this. Then we have a dictionary. So dictionary usually is a combination of key and value pair. So let's say info, and then it will start and end with a curly braces, and then you will have a key value pair. So name is a key, and then value is Krishna. Course is a key, and then the value is Python, like that. And finally you have a set. So in set you cannot have duplicate values. So info, I can have something like info set is equal to A, B, C. I can also combine multiple data types together, so I can have 2, 3, 4, and I can also have a list inside set, and this is true for list as well. So I can have a list inside list as well. That should not be a problem. So I can have true, but notice that this true is a string, and then this true is a boolean, which is what we will see next. So these are all your sequential and mapping data types. Now the next we have, I have written a list somewhere. Unhashable. Okay, yeah, we cannot have this in here, but we can have it in here. So this will work fine. Now the next one we have is a boolean. So as I said, boolean is either true or false. So you can have something like is course free, true, and just like that. Now this will have a value of a true, and these values are very important when we are actually writing conditions in our functions. So this is how we can actually use different types of data with Python. Now if you just know a variable and if you want to check what is the data type of that variable, how to do that? You can simply use a function known as type, and then you can pass that variable name. So if I do type mileage, you can see that I got int. If I do type is course free, I got bool, which means boolean. If I do info set, then I got set. If I do info temp, then I will get float. So this is how we can actually get the type of any variable. We can also convert variable from one type to another. So let's say if I have a mileage of 34, I can do something like mileage in string is equal to str, and then I can convert this numeric data into the variable of string. So if I do type, then you will see that now my mile str becomes a string, and if I print this, you can see that I got 34, but these quotations denotes that this is a string, this is not a number. Same way I can also take this back. So if I have something like a marks is equal to 78, I can also convert this into integers again. So I can do int mark is equal to int, and then I can pass marks. So this will convert these string into numeric. So if I print it now, you can see that I got I have added a debugger over here, so I will remove that, and I got the numeric data. So array is exactly what we mean by list. So array is a array is a name in JavaScript, and list is the name in Python. So it's the exact same thing. Now we also have to remember that not all strings can be converted into integers, because of course if you have something like name is equal to Krishna, then it won't make any sense to convert this into integer. So if I do int of name, it will throw an error that invalid literal for int. So we also have to take care of that. So same way we can also convert different data into different formats. So we can also play with list. So if I have a name of Krishna and if I do list, then you can see that all these letters in the word are actually changed into list, so that each element in a list is one specific letter. So you can see that we can also convert list into name, and I'm guessing we can also do the vice versa. So if I remember correctly, we had these colors, but I'm not sure if this will work or not. Let's try. And you can see that now this array or this list became a string, and I guess if I just write this one, so a is equal to this, and if I convert that, so it basically converted this list into the string. So this is how we can convert data type from one format to another one. We can also concatenate multiple strings together. So if I have name is equal to Krishna and last name is equal to Lodha, and if I do name, if I print name plus last name, and you can see that I got Krishna Lodha written entirely. Now if I want to add space in it, what I will do is I will add a literal of space and then I will add one more plus, and this will actually create a space inside this. So this is how we can actually concatenate multiple strings together. Now let us try to do the practice set. So try to print your name, age, education and city. So this we will try. Then we will do we'll also see how to take input from user and say hello to them. And finally we will do a little bit funny thing with the numerics, that we will try to find center of a line. So let's see how do we do that.